the one and only Mr. LeVar Burton. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show.
Thank you so much.
I am honored. Let me tell you. So I watch you. You were on CBS Sunday Morning, and you were talking about when you meet people, they either know you, you know where they know you from, based on So a lot of people was reading Rainbow. Some people Star Trek. Of course, with me, it was Kunta Kinte's first time I ever saw LeVar Burton and those eyes and that wild, and it was amazing. And you captivated. And I had to do a report on it when Mrs. Johnson's class. She made us all watch every night, and we had to do a whole report in fourth grade. And you were everything. And then you keep reinventing yourself, but I don't think it's reinvention. So talk about this not new, LeVar Burton Reads on Stitcher, season 8, your podcast.
A podcast.
Amazing. And it's weird because 20 years ago, I was doing a radio show, and I remember there was like this article about in Europe and England, the #1 radio show was people reading books, like they were reading Harry Potter. They were reading because there was a high illiteracy rate. I think we're illiterate today. What are your views on our level of?
I think our level of literacy, I don't know that it has changed appreciably in recent years. I do feel though like our media literacy could use some work. We don't seem to consume media with any sort of discernment. We just take it all for granted. I mean, one of the things I always said on Reading Rainbow was, you don't have to take my word for it, which means pick up a book and take a look yourself. If you are literate in at least one language, you are free by my definition, because your mind is not able to be shackled by anyone. If you can read in at least one language, you have the wherewithal to find out for yourself, to do the research. We don't do research anymore. We just take that which washes over us and through us as gospel. It's
or worse, we read headlines, because I got caught out there on Twitter this week reading a headline and didn't dig in to see.
Don't dive deeper, right?
Well, so I know your mom inspired your love of reading, and the stories out there, and y'all can go ahead and do that. What are you reading now, LeVar, for yourself?
I just finished reading The Yellow House. I do so much of my reading for pleasure right now is consumed by finding stories for the podcast. So I'm reading, a lot of short stories. For season 8, trying to round out the season. We've recorded there are 12 episodes in every season. We recorded about 10 of them, so I'm still looking for the last 2 stories. The last one being really, really important, because how you begin the season and how you end the season, I think, are really pretty important.
Take us back to season 1. Again, to hear, first of all, of course you read well. Your reading voice is beautiful. You're an actor as well, thespian, so you know how to do this. But who came to you and said, let's do a podcast where you're reading books?
This was my idea.
Okay, so where did you go once you're like, hey, where did this idea come from, and then how did you manifest it?
I had been, I had an eye on the podcasting space, Karen, and I saw it really, blowing up. And at the time, my company had the rights to Reading Rainbow, and we had launched this digital app, right? The Reading Rainbow app, which then subsequently became the Skybrary app for kids. And I did that because I wanted to see if this new technology, if we could be successful with this new technology, the tablet computer, as we were with television back in the day. And we discovered that, that technology can be a tremendous part of the equation of improving and increasing the literacy rates of emerging readers. However, I did not intend for that to become the rest of my life. So last year I was able to or 2 years ago, I think I was able to put that resource in the hands of Reading is Fundamental and go back to my core competency, which is storytelling. But at the time, I was really looking for a creative outlet where I didn't need anyone's permission to engage, right? The barrier of entry is so small. I wanted to read short stories, and I say in every episode, I say at the beginning of every episode, I pick a short story and I read it to you. And the only thing these stories have in common is that I love them, and I hope you will too. I lean heavily into speculative fiction because when I'm reading for pleasure, it's the genre that I gravitate toward most. But I've read a lot of different authors that aren't necessarily, speculative fiction authors. I just love it. Reading aloud is one of my favorite ways of storytelling.
A lot of people don't even know short stories. A lot of major movies like Benjamin Button's, The Curious Life of Benjamin Buttons. A lot of short stories get developed into film, long form film, because the talent in being able to tell a complete story. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of folks don't get it. It is not easy to tell a well-told story, beginning, middle, and end, with compelling characters in, 5,000 words. It's a skill, and one that not everybody possesses. So I'm a big fan of the art form of the short story. I have been since I was a kid, going back to, O. Henry and Poe. I just love the form because it's so exacting, and when done right, the payoff is so satisfying.
Yeah. I dabble in writing, so I'm really into it, and I read a lot. I read a lot of everything. So I'm a voracious reader, and I wish more people were, because as you say in Reading Rainbow, it takes you places that you could never go to or that you've never been to. It opens your whole entire world and your imagination. Your world becomes so big when you're able to find yourself. Like I was able to find myself in A Tale of Two Cities, even though there was no me in that book, but I was able to find myself. And I think that's important.
You sound like me talking about the power of the written word. Seriously. I mean, you are an evangelist in the same way I am, that we just want to spread the good news that reading is the joint, right?
Listen, you were on your way to becoming a priest, which I find fascinating. So it's interesting that you use that word evangelism, because I have come to my Damascus moment and realized that our only job, our only responsibility here on this earth is to learn as much and teach as much, to gather all goodness and then put it back out so that the next generation can build upon the things that we learn. We've forgotten that. We have something's broken. And every day I get up with the quest of trying to fix it and figure out how we can inspire people to fix it. I don't have the answers, and I'm sad because, again, I watched you in Roots, and that was supposed to change America. That miniseries, the most watched television show, Emmys galore, people, I didn't know. And then this summer, we see George Floyd get his life snuffed out, and people, I didn't know. I'm like, we were having this conversation 30 years ago. Rodney King, I didn't know. We know, we've been knowing, but we haven't the capacity to change. And I don't know, at some point, something's got to give, LeVar Burton. So what are your thoughts on where we are going to be as human beings?
In my 64 years, Karen, I have observed that where social progress is concerned, America does this dance of a step or two forward and a step to the side and then 3 or 4 steps back. And that just seems to be the rhythm that we use to approach such things. It's not a straight line. It's not, it isn't continual progress, or it certainly doesn't feel like continual progress. I think this summer, to me, it felt familiar but different, because the people in the streets, there were a lot more allies. There were a lot more of what I call my melanin deficient cousins in the streets along with us. And I think that bodes well of perhaps some level of critical mass being achieved in terms of white America really understanding what the Black experience in America is all about. And you're right, we've been saying it forever, but it's always been convenient for folks to sidestep, deny, obscure. With that incontrovertible evidence of that officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeling on George Floyd's neck, there was no longer an opportunity for America to say, well, you know, I don't think that there's anything to this thing, such as systemic racism. I don't think that white privilege is a thing. Well, America, it is. And you've seen the evidence of it now, and you cannot unsee it.